Hi, everyone. I'm Fran Strickland with Verily Biz Solutions, and I'm delighted to be with you today. I have with you the lovely Miss Sharon Abbott, and Sharon is going to be talking with us about a very special mission that she has to help youth. Now, what's so wonderful about this is, Tapped In with Verily Biz Solutions is all about enabling owners, founders, CXOs, and entrepreneurs to continue to grow and evolve in their lives, not just professionally, but personally. It's about everything that we do, giving us a sense of purpose and touching us personally as we grow. So here we are with Sharon. Hi, Sharon. So happy to have you with us today. Please, I can't tell you, I've been waiting for a few weeks now since you agreed to talk to us just to hear about your journey and what you're doing and the difference that you're making. So
Hi.
Sharon, welcome again. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what it is that you're doing to make a difference.
Thank you, Fran. My whole life, I have done things to help youth. And about 2000, my little brother, who was adopted by my parents, said at Christmas dinner, "We have to do something to help kids who don't have a sister like you." And so he came up with the idea that we should do a boys. And I started talking to people about how to get it launched. And I had 8 different people who said they would fund it completely. And the last one was in 2012. And of course, it was heartbreaking when, they said, sell my business, sell my house, sell everything, get ready. You're going to Switzerland, the account's open. I'm going to be able to launch this school and to help kids get off the streets. And so I had a business broker 6 months later. He said, since you've sold everything, why don't you look at this foreign currency? So I took everything I had and purchased foreign currency, which will revalue. It's called the global currency reset, and it's about to
Mhm.
happen any day. And as soon as it does, then I will be able to launch my school and not have to be constantly looking at fundraising to keep the doors open because we can't have the kids, midstream on a semester go, well, we just ran out of money, so you have to go back
Mhm.
home. So
Mhm.
that was how all of this got started. And so the school went from 300 boys to now the program is 6,000 boys and girls in a
Oh.
3 year high school program, and it's a trade school. So the kids will learn all the required curriculum through multimedia because that's the way their brains are wired. They learn better, they retain it longer. It makes more sense to them when education's in multimedia. So I
Mhm.
have so far 525 people coming from 66 countries to join me in Belize to launch the school. And I have experts in their fields. I have 22 divisions. So along the way, because I've had plenty of time to plan this out, I now have 10,000 documents to lay out the project so that anybody can go to a document and go, okay, what is the plan? How are we doing this? But the great thing is that each division, there's 22 divisions under the main project, and each division has a financial responsibility to create the income to make the entire project self-sustaining within 3 to 5 years. So, surprisingly, our agricultural division will create 52% of our $3 billion a year budget.
Wow, that is fantastic. I mean, what an undertaking coming from a comment from a young person to have such a heart. And the fact that it came from their being so impressed by your sisterhood, by the way you showed up as a human being.
It was really heartfelt for me. And my brother wore a cowboy hat and a big belt buckle and cowboy boots. So I just kind of thought of him as a regular cowboy redneck, right? I never had any clue that he was as deep as he was.
Mm-hmm.
That he would actually be thinking in terms of maybe we should do something for kids that don't have anyone to support them. And you know what's shocking? In the United States, prior to COVID, there were 200,000 children living on the streets by themselves. No adult, no one to tell them, here's your next meal or this is where you're going to sleep tonight. Today, it's over 700,000. And the United States is 22nd from the top. So there's 21 countries who have more children living on the streets than the United States. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is a worldwide problem where, these children who, they really don't have anyone to guide them, and we're forcing them into a life of crime. Because where are they
Mm-hmm.
going to get a meal if they can't get a job because they don't have an address? Because they don't have an address, they can't take a shower every day and apply for a job. They don't have the money to buy clothes to show up for an interview. So it's just a system that just keeps going round and round to keep these kids in this environment. So 50% of all these children in the United States will end up in prison or dead before their 35th birthday. And statistically, when people in the government know this and they don't do anything about it, there's no government program to help these kids at 15 years old, which is why I targeted 15-year-olds. And foster
Mm-hmm.
care ends at 15. So the
Mm-hmm.
kids on their 15th birthday are shown the front door, and there's nowhere for them to go. There's no program to help guide them through the rest of their youth. And at 15, kids are
Mm-hmm.
not ready to be independent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Those are unbelievable statistics. And I mean, as you were talking, I mean, if we're 20 seconds in the United States, and so there's other countries ahead of us. As you were putting, this vision together and all of the details as you've laid out, were you looking at other models from other countries that might be dealing with this concern, or was it something that you just kind of noodled out? Tell me about that process of building this out. I mean, from a comment, a very loving comment, to what you've done, and as you describe it, tell me more about how you made that journey.
Well, it would have been very helpful if I could have found programs that were already doing something the way I thought it should be done.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very particular about this. I don't want the kids forced into a religion. We'll have the best theology classes there are, but the kids have to learn to make their own decisions. So that means
Mm-hmm.
they decide if they're religious. They decide what religion if they want to follow a religion. It's
Mm-hmm.
totally empowering the children to think for themselves. So I couldn't find any programs, and India is the only country that has reduced the amount of homeless children living on the streets. All other countries have increased drastically, just like the United States since COVID. I looked everywhere. I found a little piece here in Austin. There was an equestrian program, and this man only dealt with kids that were murderers, hard crime. Not one of his kids ever went back into the judicial system rest of their lives. And he did this program for 25 years. So that really inspired me. So I said, okay, we're going to have an equestrian program because these great big horses, they could be intimidating, but it also brings the heart out in children. So these kids who become resistant to connecting because they haven't been able to trust adults, and this will help them actually become more vulnerable, more open. And so I thought that was really important. There's an amazing woman, uh, Interestingly, her name is Strickland. She's in Dallas. Um, and she's created this program that extracts the genius. She says every child has a genius capacity somewhere with something. So I have talked to her about incorporating her methods of being able to discover what is that child's genius. And then, so that to me was really important. If you could take a child who's been living on the streets and prove to them that they have a genius within them, they have something to offer the world, then that
Hmm.
becomes very empowering for them because a lot of these kids have no self esteem. They have
Hmm.
no recognition that they have anything to offer.
Hmm. 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 So I hear that your program covers what I would describe as the spectrum of humanity. It's practical life skills. It is developing the emotional bandwidth to be able to interact positively with one's world, to be resilient, if you will. It's developing the capability to support oneself and a livelihood with skills.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I think that, I guess for me the subtext is that, we all go through things that we would say hurt us with trauma. It's a trauma to our emotional well-being, which affects our ability to trust. So it kind of reinstills the availability of learning to trust again, but with some maturity behind it, because what happens is you get to learn from those life experiences and what to observe for, so that you don't have to repeat some of those situations again. So it's really giving young people a leg up when they come back. They're coming into a place where you're giving them definitely an advantage from where they were.
That's absolutely perfect. For instance, when I look at how these kids have been thought of as disposable human beings, and then when we get them, they will be missing education because they've been living on the streets. They haven't had to go to school because nobody's there to tell them to get up, get dressed, go to school. And I look at this as a way that I can take these kids and put them through every single one of our 22 divisions. So every boy and girl is going to learn how to rebuild an engine on a car, how to restore muscle cars from the 50s and 60s, how to do every construction job there is, how to do all the home economics. So boys and girls alike are going to learn how to cook meals that are gourmet meals, as well as how to cook on a budget. So if they ever get caught in this situation, let's say they're going to college and there's not a lot of extra money, that they can actually learn how to eat healthy and still on a budget. And so
Mm.
there's all these different aspects. There, we're going to have a performing arts program. I have 24 professional musicians on the team. And so the kids are going to learn everything from performing to the backstage to the recording, the promotions, everything about music there is, whether they like music or not. So they're going to have this really well-rounded background. By the time they're 18, they're going to know, what do they like? What don't they like? What do they want to pursue? And for people who, let's say they're in their 40s or 50s, and I usually, when I talk to groups of people who have lost their jobs, and the one thing that is common with all of them, their career was rarely their passion.
Hmm.
When you think about, how many different things do we go through before we find something we're passionate about? I spent
Hmm.
20 years in the printing industry. I learned sales in the corporate arena, which was wonderful for me because
Hmm.
it got me
Hmm.
out of my shell. I moved around. I taught entrepreneur skills for 20 years in the San Francisco Bay Area. And now all along the way, I was doing work to help kids in some ways, with Easter
Mm-hmm.
Seals, American Diabetes, with Rubicon, which is a program that took kids who were sexually abused and put them into homes where they had counseling. And this is unbelievable. 6-year-olds to 15-year-olds that
Mm-hmm.
had to be taken away from their families because of sexual abuse. And I worked doing fundraising and golf tournaments. I did 10 golf tournaments a year for 10 different organizations, 10 years straight, to be able to help these organizations have the kind of money that they need, because most nonprofits, and this is really a challenge, they put their hand out to people who are interested in what they do as a nonprofit. And every
Mm-hmm.
year they're going after the same people for donations. And what I
Mm-hmm.
was teaching the nonprofits is to create events where they didn't have to reach out to a base of people. They could actually raise all the funds that they needed just through doing events. So it was really eye-opening for me to see how you could take a nonprofit like the American Diabetes Association, which is huge, and to be able to show them. I did a costume party for them where it was a costume ball. I did a dance event for them. I did, and this wasn't my business. It was just something I did because
Mm-hmm.
I like being involved with the community. And then I did a
Mm-hmm.
golf tournament for them. I did all these things every year to help them raise their visibility, to make it educational. So, did you know that diabetes can actually be reversed? Right? So people don't have to be insulin dependent. I was brittle
Mm-hmm.
diabetic, and I had a naturopathic doctor tell me to juice carrots, beets, celery, and cucumbers. Take an ounce each every day, 4 times a day, for 6 weeks. And no longer was I diabetic.
Wow. Now, that's fantastic. Whoa. Of course, I know people who've been diabetic and they've been on medication, and I've known the journey that they've gone through in a health way, sometimes where it can end up. And to be able to find a naturopathic way to reverse that
Yeah,
is fantastic.
yeah. And
And
you know,
everything.
you can reverse high blood pressure in 30 days. So I did this really weird thing. I was sleeping on my side reading my Kindle, and the mattress
Mm-hmm.
was the hardest mattress I had ever slept on. And the ileocecal valve got stuck open. So I was getting sick every night. And so my blood pressure went up to 225 over 125, which
Mm-hmm.
is beyond hyperstolic. And
Mm-hmm.
so this friend of mine said, take an eggplant, cut it into 1-inch cubes, soak it in
Mm-hmm.
spring water overnight, pour that
Mm-hmm.
spring water into a bottle, take an ounce. 30 minutes later, check your blood pressure. And
Mm-hmm.
in 30 days, my blood pressure was normal, and it
Wow.
stayed normal ever since. So I've had people who have been dependent on their high blood pressure medication, which causes like 5 or 6 side effects, um,
Mm.
completely get off of high blood pressure medication just by using an eggplant. So there's all
Wow.
kinds of things that people can learn to become more healthy. That's the thing that I find. If you're healthy, you can think more clearly.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in ill health, your only focus is on that issue. And so we can basically eradicate high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, all the things that will take people and leave them without control of their lives. So I used to ask people, when's the last time you jumped out of bed on Monday morning and you were so excited about doing your job that you couldn't wait to get started with your week? I
But
used
now,
to,
let's hold a point, because I really want to. I love the health thing, but I really want to get back to the this youth program, because what I hear you saying is that through what you are, the instruction and the training that you're providing to these young people, part of it will be this kind of knowledge embedded in
exactly.
those programs.
Yeah. Can you
That this is
imagine?
what I didn't
Yeah.
want people to miss, is the fact that what you're sharing, that's very real, life experience that you've had from using nature and nutrition and things that are right there at their fingertips, you're embedding this kind of knowledge also into the lives of these young people that you're helping.
Exactly. So, can you imagine if at 18 you knew how to cure a headache without taking a pill? If you knew how to develop like more thought processes through
Mm-hmm.
using food, because of things like
Mm-hmm.
most people to fill up, they eat a lot of carbs, and that
Mm-hmm.
actually takes away from the ability for people to think clearly. So
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of things that are available. These kids are going to be exposed to the most elaborate education that anybody has ever thought of. And
Mm-hmm.
then they become responsible adults. But the greatest part of this is they're going to know what they want to do with their lives at 18. It's not going to take them,
Mm-hmm.
like me, a second career, a third career, a fourth career. I
Right.
just, and I
Right.
don't think I've ever been as excited as I am. And I'll be 75 in 2 weeks. And I don't
Mm.
think I've ever been this excited about something that I'm going to be able to do every day, changing
Uh-huh.
lives. And for
Uh-huh.
those of you watching, if you don't have something that you're excited about, take the time to talk with somebody and figure it out. Is it something based around animals or seniors or veterans or, the lack of housing around the world? There's something that, because of your life experiences, will inspire you to do something that affects the world in a positive way. And I think that that's why we go through challenges in our life, is so
Mm-hmm.
that we're able to see in other people, what can you do to help somebody
Mm-hmm.
who hasn't had your experience? And so
Mm-hmm.
I look at this as, what a gift that I had brittle diabetes, because it
Mm-hmm.
made me learn, right? So all the things that I've ever had in my life have given me a lesson that I stood up and I accepted the challenge. But then I've been able to help hundreds of people because of it.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Now let's pause a moment because actually this conversation has been so rich and you've said so many, you've given so many nuggets, nuggets for each individual person who's joined us to hear and to reflect how giving, how looking outside of us can be so incredibly enriching for us personally. And that truly is the element of this podcast, is how people continue to grow and evolve personally in their sense of purpose and impact that they can have on their communities and anywhere in the world, quite frankly. I also heard how you're teaching these young people life skills to be resilient, how to trust again. I also hear you talk about building critical thinking skills. You said to encourage them to think for themselves.
Yes.
They know what they like. And that is so important. That's such an important piece of continuing to grow and evolve. And as I say, rich nuggets for people to draw upon and to understand what it is, the difference that you're making. Now, what I'd like to ask you before we go any further, this message has been really for us, kind of what we say grown folks in my culture. It's, about what's available. It also, will be a point that, yes, we're going to talk about how us grown folks can support your mission. But I'd like for you to kind of speak right now to any young people who might be listening to this, young people who may be in this situation. What message do you have for them?
Thank you for asking that, because most of the kids that are living on the streets have no idea that they can do something about their lives. I
Mm-hmm.
met a young boy in San Francisco, Fisherman's Wharf, and
Mm-hmm.
he was 12 years old when he came home from school one day, and his mother had moved with her boyfriend and didn't tell him where they moved. So he
Mhm.
was on the streets by himself. Fortunately, he ended up with kids who were a little bit older than him. They kept him away from the sex trafficking, from the drugs, and he became interested in hemp and how hemp could be used as a medicinal product, as a food product, in so many different ways. This young man, I met him at 25. So at 13 years, he had become an expert in hemp. Now, he's a rare situation for somebody who had been homeless, but
Mhm.
he and a group of people that he gathered would go to different communities and teach them how to plant their own gardens so that they had fresh vegetables, that they didn't have to go to the grocery store for food. And so,
Mhm.
and then he even found out that a plant like moringa has as much protein as a piece of chicken. So you can have a very healthy diet without having to have meat. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of people that, they just can't afford to go buy a chicken or whatever food that most people would eat. So when these kids come together and instead of just hanging out on the streets and, every day is a party because they have no one to tell them, any order of what they need to do,
Mhm.
if kids would actually start focusing on what does your life look like a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and
Mhm.
to be able to have a plan that you can follow and it's adjusting the plan as you go along because nothing is concrete. So I've always told people if your life isn't working the way it is, then you have to change something.
Mhm.
But when your life is running smoothly, that means you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Mhm.
So all of these challenges that people face, when they lose their job, great. What a wonderful opportunity to learn to do something when
Mhm.
kids are living on the streets and they think, okay, this is just my life. I have nothing. These kids have
Mhm.
nothing but maybe a change of clothes. And
Mhm.
yet this one young man stood out among all the kids that I've met on the streets. And I love the fact that he took the time to start educating other children and then they went out into these communities. Whatever your life situation is, whether you're, 15 years old or whether you're 40 years old, you can change your life. And I had people through my business organization where I trained entrepreneurs. If you took a half an hour today and every
Mhm.
day and planned what you want your life to be in a year, it is amazing how fast that year goes and how you can have control over your life rather than just thinking that whatever's going on, you're just stuck with it. You're not.
Mhm.
Anybody can have a life that they're proud of and that they really look forward to every day. And if people don't have a purpose, then their heart isn't being fulfilled. It's so
Mhm.
important for people to live their life on purpose.
Mm. Mm. Wow. So as you were speaking, I'm saying, okay, the big voice, the big ideas is there is the opportunity to live a life that is full of meaning. It's not necessary to accept what has been, doesn't have to be what is and what can be going forward. The past doesn't have to define our future. That there are examples everywhere where people who've answered the call to act in purpose and to give to others that's been transformative for them. And even yourself, what I've heard is that this journey has brought to you your own physical healing, and emotional wellness and wholeness that might have been less likely to be found or not found as easily or as soon, simply because you actually have been living exactly what you've just shared to young people to remember.
Exactly. Exactly. So anything that people want to accomplish, it's one step at a time. I mean, I'm the kind of person that I hated my front porch.
Hmm.
3 months later, I tore it down and completely rebuilt the porch. Now,
Hmm.
I hadn't had any training, any skills. I got my skill saw, I got a sawzall. I mean, whatever I needed to do, I just learned to do it. And today,
Hmm.
because we have YouTube, you can learn to do anything.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you can become an expert in such a short period of time because somebody's already documented it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, do you know we've run out of time because it's, as I said, it's such a rich conversation, and for my audience, you know, you're going to hear it this one time, but it will be available for you to hear it repeatedly, and to let those principles and truths sink into your hearts and minds, and share it with young people too, because you may know people, young people in your sphere of influence that could benefit from just hearing that there are people here all around us that love them and that want to make a difference and help them make a difference for themselves. But before we go, Sharon, I really want to give you a chance to tell the audience. And by the way, audience, this is going to be available when in the comments section. But please tell us, how can people reach out to you if they want to support what you're doing?
The website for the school is Ultimate Business UNIV as in Victor.com. That's Ultimate
Mm-hmm.
Business University, but I shortened the university part. So ultimatebusinessuniv.com.
Mm-hmm.
My email is Sharon, SHARYN, at ultimatebusinessuniv.com. And the website is probably 2,000 pages. So there's more than enough information for people to reach out and contact me, and even ideas of what they can do in their own community to help the kids. Like November is my birthday month. So I do a coat drive for kids. And
Mm-hmm.
last year, I was able to provide coats and blankets for over 800 children by the generosity of people that had seen my post on Facebook. So, if anybody wants to help out in their own community or to help me make sure that kids on the streets at least have a warm blanket for the winter.
Oh, wow. Wow. This really warms my heart. Um, there, every morning when I wake up, I go through my gratitude list, and that, I'm thankful to have a roof over my head. I have a bed to sleep in. There's food for me to eat, you know, clean clothes for me to wear, clean water for me to drink, and to know that that's not a given. There's
No,
so many who don't have it. It's not a given, and that there are people whom we can touch or whom we can support that can make that kind of difference. And I know that you're not doing it for recognition or applause, but uh, I want to celebrate your heart and thank you for this work. And also thank you for coming on my little platform and sharing what you're doing, because I know that I'm going to reach people, not just in the United States, but there will be people here in Europe that will listen, and they also will get some insights about how they might can make a difference. And once again, it's about growth, but it's growth that's being spread around that can help many more than just our singular selves. So
absolutely.
I
You,
just want to thank you.
you're
And
welcome.
and before we close, What's your last insight you want to share with us?
If you don't like the world you live in, it takes one step to change it. So
Mm,
start with the most simple and graduate to the most challenging.
fantastic. Well, there you have it, folks. I'm wrapping up with Sharon Abbott, wonderful woman, great heart. It's just the perfect time of the year to think about how we can reach out and touch other people. And please watch out so that you will be able to know how to get in touch with her. And if you don't know and you want to get in touch with me, of course, you can find me on LinkedIn. Verily Biz Solutions is my business. And we will get you together with her. So again, Sharon, thank you so much. And thank you to my dear audience. I look forward to the next time we're together. Until then, please be blessed and take care of yourselves. Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Fran.
much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay.